Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences, my lovely friends. Welcome to the East-West Show. Jack Xiao on the East-West Show with ICTTV. ICTTV is a brand commercial name, and G&E remains the same as a firm. ICTTV is a brand new commercial name because we affiliated with the CBS. We're now a proud member of the CBS network. So, which means that my friend Chris Nibby is viewed on a larger scale, much larger scale. All right, good. So, today with my friend Mr. Chris Nibby, famous political commentator. As a matter of fact, he is a Hollywood filmmaker, only because he has been engaged so deep in making documentaries, historical documentaries, and also contemporary. He goes in and out the archives so many times, and he still does. And he's got a bunch of information that is worth discussion. One of the information that he got himself hand on is the ineffective antibiotics. I recall about a while ago, you and I, we talked about the
opioid
pandemic,
yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
I believe they are related.
They are related in as much as they are both related to the fact of greed, of the human weakness, which is called greed, and which leads people to do things they actually shouldn't do. And in this case, like in the opioid pandemic, it is big pharma which actually is to be blamed.
Big pharma is the sarcastic term for big pharmaceutical industry. So they use pharma, M-A, pharma, not pharmer, pharma, big pharma, or as a brand name. Anyway, so go ahead.
No, it is understood that the development of new medicines and new treatments is very costly and takes many years. So it is very costly, but at the same time, the pharmaceutical industry is making a fortune because, you see, they push their products, which are some of them which are successful, they push them by giving doctors advantages and incentives to prescribe a particular pill. So that has led to the fact, in the opioid crisis, it's led to the fact that a lot of people got dependent on drugs which treated depression. And a lot of Americans had depressions or have depressions because they lost their jobs, they didn't find a new job, and they have other problems, personal problems, which they couldn't face. And, I'm always surprised when I see in America, especially, people, they take a handful of pills in the morning for different kind of things. And I ask them, don't you think these pills have interreactions
amongst themselves?
So, and they just, because the doctor said this pill is good for this pill is good for this, so they swallow it. Anyhow, so the opioid pandemic is related, but only in as much as also the drugs against depressions were pushed by big pharma through the doctors who prescribed them to depressed people.
That is understood. However, I believe we must make a clear distinction in between the two. The one is ineffective antibiotics, and the other is how much money they make, right, for making the medication or available, right? Those are two different stories.
Yes and no, because you see, antibiotics, they also overprescribed. You see, once they discovered the power of antibiotics, it was just given you because it was so very effective in the beginning, and it's about everything. Nowadays, like everywhere else, we have seen this in agriculture too, pesticides, the pests have developed resistance against the pesticide, So now you're using either stronger pesticides or more, and that
or different type.
or different type, and that is not good for you because you're eating the vegetable. So at least 700,000 people die each year around the world due to antibiotic resistance. With other words, they have become...
In other words, let me make it clear.
Yeah.
When you say ineffective antibiotics, you're not saying that the biotic itself failed, it doesn't function. You're talking about the human body, the patient body has grown the resistance.
Yes, the bacteria within...
or the immune system
Right.
to the antibiotics.
Right.
So the antibiotics becoming ineffective.
Are becoming ineffective,
Okay,
or have become
That's a different story.
ineffective.
That's a
Yes.
different story. The
see?
previous belongs to the legal part.
Right.
I'm talking about somebody committing crimes by making it ineffective.
No. It has become ineffective, like the pests, you see. So the future where antibiotics become inefficient is very scary, because even simple infections could be fatal without antibiotics.
Yes.
They are essential for surgeries and chemotherapy. If left unchecked, antimicrobial resistance, also called AMR, could lead to over 10 million deaths a year by 2050.
By 2050.
By 2050.
Uh-huh.
That is a staggering amount of people.
But I understand that, of course, the whole world, the entire Mother Nature, I mean,
Right.
everything under Earth, right, within control of Mother Nature, evolutes, including ourselves,
Right.
including technology itself, right? The body system produces the immune to the antibiotics.
Right.
However, the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, they evolve themselves too.
They are trying to find
they
new,
invent new cures.
Yes, but it's not that easy. Because you see, this is more than the Black Death. You remember the Black Death in Europe, or the bubonic plague in Europe and Asia, killed in the 13th century. Well, this is going to be a big, big problem.
Known as the plague.
The plague, yes, the Black Death or the plague.
Yeah.
So this post-antibiotic apocalypse, which is really what science are facing now and are vigorously trying to prevent with intensive research. But you see, medical research takes a long time and is very costly. That is also the reason why legitimately medication from pharmaceutical industries is rather expensive.
There is a little something I would like to provide to you as a necessary supplement to your subject. I learned about a week ago polio. You know polio?
Poland, the country of Poland.
Polio.
Polio. I'm sorry. Yeah, polio. Yeah.
That happens to a baby.
Right.
That crops your whole bone system.
Right, and that's...
You never grow up,
Right.
you grow. It's like the polio thing.
Yeah.
The polio, last I heard from International Rotary. They say with the joint efforts of everything, they brought it down to only 6 cases, right? And the last time I heard, that was about 2 weeks ago, there are 86 diagnosed. There are another 6 diagnosed with the polio. In other words, the polio was never diminished. Polio has a comeback. It's making a comeback.
Oh.
So, in other words, in no time we have to do the injection whatsoever.
With children, you do that with children.
For children.
Yeah.
To fight for polio.
Yes. So it's coming
That's terrible.
back. Yeah.
It is coming back. 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
I heard exactly from the the news, they're talking about there are 6 discoveries already of the cases.
You see?
Go ahead.
So this antibiotic resistant occurs very simply when bacteria change and become resistant to the antibiotics used to treat the patients. Very simple. Because, they are living organs too, and they have their own power to live and to survive, and
It's a war. Only you can't see them.
It's a war. It's exactly a war.
It's a war. Only a war.
These infections are caused by a bacteria, and they're fighting. It's a war you cannot see, but it's an ongoing battle. And also, you see, because as always, we people and doctors and everybody looking for a quick fix. That's why. Let's take this and it will go away. And therefore, worldwide antibiotics all over the world, not only in America, have been overprescribed or inappropriately prescribed, because they just, okay, you have something, we give you antibiotic. It could have been they could have given you something else, or have given you a more holistic or organic treatment, but it's easier to give you a pill or to give you an injection. That's the problem. So therefore, more and more people have become resistant. Not the people,
okay, my
the
friend,
bacteria
my
in
lovely
the people.
friend, okay, my lovely audiences. Today in the subject, we're talking about ineffective antibiotics. We probably have to do a little revision of the subject, of the topic. It's not ineffective, it is
They have become ineffective.
they have become ineffective, relatively ineffective, something like that.
Yes.
Right. So with me is my good friend Chris Nibby. We'll be right back after this short break, please. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow on the East West Show with the ICT TV. Joining me is my good friend, Mr. Chris Nibby. He is not a doctor. He has no medical background.
No.
And yet he has got some information about the antibiotics, which compared to the fact of repeated use or overdose use whatsoever, produces kind of a resistance to the body. The body is becoming less sensitive to the antibiotics, so you end up with bigger problems. So
now the bacteria, it's the bacteria, it's not the body, because your body is full of bacteria, and and they're causing an infection, and this bacteria is resistant to the treatment.
Bacteria, germs, and a virus.
Right.
All together. Okay,
Yeah.
good, very good. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the fact that pharmaceuticals are still developing new antibiotics.
Everybody was very happy with what they had, and it was very effective. But now, you see, because as I said, it was over-prescribed, because it was sort of an easy fix, and that the effects of that easy fix have worn off. So Big Pharma is, of course, to blame, because they motivated also doctors with generous incentives to overprescribe those antibiotics. And the doctors did, and that resulted in a widespread, bacteria development which is resistant to antibiotics.
Doctors do it. Doctors do the over prescription because for money.
Not only for money, but the patient is happy. You go there, and the doctor gives you something. You don't know what you get. You go, you buy, you take, and you feel good, and you say, oh, my doctor is great. And he didn't do anything wrong. He just didn't realize that these bacteria are powerful. As you just told me, that polio is having a resurgence. That shows you, because for a long time nobody talked about polio.
It's the same thing when you play cards, right? You always save your king card to the very bottom, to the most critical moment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can win.
Right.
You don't want to use your king card in the very beginning, and later you have nothing.
Right.
Right.
So, you see, these bacteria are usually in in a patient's gut, in our gut. That's where they all are. So they have become resistant, and the resistance, these drug-resistant bacteria, they spread because of poor sanitation. Hospitals are not as clean as you might hope or might expect. And these infections and hygiene, wrong hygiene, there's bacteria everywhere. And we are surrounded by it, and our immune system fights it. But if you weaken the immune system, then it has nothing to fight. And if there's nothing, if the medicine you give to help the immune system, and this medicine has been overused because the bacteria is too powerful, it doesn't work. So reduce.
Yeah, there's one thing probably you want to really insert. Every time when you see a doctor, when they prescribe you a box of antibiotics or something, it has a note down there, finish the whole thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What is saying? What exactly is saying? Anyway, they don't want you to stop halfway.
No. Yeah.
Right? Finish the whole thing.
Yes.
By then, you get the germs, the virus and everything totally killed.
That in theory.
In theory.
But if you have developed resistance against it.
If you stop halfway, though, they survive. When they survive, they learned about this medicine, so they have
the bacteria.
The bacteria
develop resistance
to the certain antibiotics. Yes.
You see, it is always a problem because everything is overdone. You eat more than you need, you drink more than you need. Everything is overdone because everything is done. Everybody tries to sell you something. And the easy and the right ways are probably very simple. And there are, some people many people who live well are people who live a simple life, who have a simple diet, and who are not overweight, it seems to be that medicine and lifestyle and health are very closely connected. And going back to your Chinese roots, you know that Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, always considered your state of mind first. The doctor checks you out and tries to find out your state of mind, because the Western medicine is treating the specific problem. It hurts here, they treat this one. They don't think, or they are not trained, or the thought pattern is not, we should think, why does it hurt here? Because many times it hurts here because something is wrong here. See, the body is interconnected. And that makes in many ways Chinese traditional medicine a big comeback in Western medicine. There is a big comeback in Chinese traditional medicine because it's holistic. It is not so much pills, it's natural ingredients which they give you to heal.
To be more precise, though, you're talking about two scientific system in recognition of the problems.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So you want to see a fever,
Right.
right? And you want to run a fever. You can measure the heart rate, you can measure the blood pressure, right? In Chinese medicine system, they tell you that you are suffering from too much of anxiety. They tell you anxiety is the word because you worry too much, right? In theory, practically, you're talking about anxiety makes your body reduce the level of its immune.
Yes.
So you become sick.
Yeah, the anxiety here is called stress.
Stress.
Yeah.
Stress and anxiety reduce the ability of your body resistance,
Right.
right, to disease.
Right.
That's why you run a fever. That's
It's
why you
one
have
part
the
of
problem.
it. It's one part of it. It's not the entire thing, but it's one part of it.
All right.
So, you see, the data published by the Center for Disease Dynamics Economic Policy Institute in Washington shows that global use of antibiotics increased by 64% between the year 2000 and the year 2015. 64% increase of
Within 15 years.
within 15 years.
50 years, yeah.
So, and you see, antibiotics are not only given to you, they are also given to food-producing animals
Oh, okay.
and are used in agriculture. The animals, you see, the animals, like the cows, the pigs, the chicken, they all, in order to, you see, they also get steroids to make them grow faster, or to make particular parts of the animal's body more meat, the meat better. It's a whole science behind this, but the animals and the crops also develop drug-resistant, antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So now the chain continues. So it's not anymore you, because it's not only you get the injection because it hurts you someplace. Now you also get it through your mouth, through the food you eat.
In other words, even if you keep yourself clean from antibiotics,
Right.
I never touch or seldom touch
That's
antibiotics, but you may intake it by taking fish, pork.
Not so much fish, because unless it's farmed fish, but all the farmed animals, beef, pork, chicken, they are the main problem. So that's, and of course agriculture products. So it's, it's a very vicious cycle, because in one way, look at, for example, in one way people say, oh, there will be a big famine coming. On the other way, when you look at the food which is thrown away, it's unbelievable. Food, perfectly good food,
of course.
half-eaten food, just thrown away.
There's one study that I touched one time. There was about 49 to 51% of American food that's being wasted.
Can you imagine? Yeah. And other people go hungry. So the drug-resistant bacteria reach humans through their food chain, water, soil, air, or by direct contact with the animals. It's all connected. That is, and our lifestyle is not conducive to a healthy lifestyle, because you sit too much in rooms, you don't have enough sunlight.
Right.
It's a lot of combinations of our lifestyle.
Okay, my dear brothers, sisters, my dear audiences, once a lifetime is touched, probably the discussion can be stretched to cover larger areas. With me today is my good friend, Chris Nibby, who cares about people, cares about community. and he's an archivist himself. He goes here and there to libraries, to archives, to find out information that we believe necessary for you to learn. Right? Let's take a short moment now. We come back. We put those loose ends together and see what exactly happens and see what we can do to prevent it from getting worse. So we'll be right back. Hello, dear friends, lovely audience. Welcome back to the show, Jack Xiao on the East West Show with the ICT TV. With me today is my good friend, Chris Nibby, a Hollywood director and producer himself, and he screenwrites too, a wonderful individual with a set of smart brain and kind heart. I kind of like him a lot. That's why you see him a lot right now. To the subject issue, we're talking about ineffective antibiotics, namely antibiotics by the fact of using repeated use or overdose use whatsoever, that gives your give the bacteria in your body the ability of resistance, right? That when reflected to the effectiveness of the antibiotics, of course, you see a big gap, right? Now, what else can we do to prevent that from happening?
You see, it is this vicious cycle. Medication, antibiotic medication, which you get from pills and injections, and through the food chain. So the drug-resistant bacteria is spreading into the public at large through various ways. And there is very, very vigorous research going on, and there is a fund which is a leader in the fight against superbugs. They're calling them now superbugs. The bacteria before have now developed into superbugs. And this foundation is called Global AMR Innovation Fund. You may remember that earlier I explained what AMR is. AMR is unchecked antimicrobial resistance. AMR is unchecked microbial resistance. So they are the fighters, or they are in coordination with pharmaceutical companies and others who are trying, with major financial and research contributors. This worldwide organization is serving some and developing some of the most promising research of the next generation of treatments which we can expect. But as I said before, we all know that this type of research is very, very tedious and takes a long time, so there is no quick fix here.
In other words, by 2060, we will have nothing on hand to deal with this.
Or we may or we may not have, but you see, there's always, you remember, in the antibiotics were revolutionized by penicillin. You know, in the 20th century, penicillin alone is thought to have saved more than 200 million lives since it was first used to treat infections in 1942. That was a wonder drug.
You mean penicillin?
Penicillin in 1942 became the wonder drug. It was a wonder drug for everything because it almost fixed everything.
I understand during World War II,
Yeah.
penicillin has done a great job in saving lots of lives.
Yes. And it continued to do. You know, penicillin is.
And then later, and penicillin still nowadays
Oh yes,
used,
still
right?
it's still. But
Amoxicillin is a different type of penicillin.
yes,
Amoxicillin.
I don't know about that.
Uh-huh.
Remember, I'm not a doctor. I just found this interesting. Found various interesting articles about the
Amoxicillin
antibiotics.
is a much advanced type of penicillin.
See, so they are already going steps forward in order to fight the resistance.
And in the old days, back in early 70s, there is one called tetracycline. You heard of that?
No.
Tetracycline. Tetracycline was prevailing for quite some time. Later, they recognized that it gives the children dark teeth.
Oh, when was that?
Was early 70s.
Oh, so you see, there is constant development.
The constant development, and also they take the defect out as much as they can, or as they go, as they develop. Well, which is not bad.
No, I'm not a medical expert. I just stumbled on various articles talking about that antibiotics have become overused, and because of that have become to a certain degree ineffective, because the bacteria they used to kill have developed resistance to a degree which now makes the antibiotic useless. So the penicillin was, that was a dream drug. Everybody gave you penicillin, and it really helped because it was like a sledgehammer for the doctors,
And they say it was a gift from God.
Yeah, and so
it's a gift from God.
As life develops, it saved over 200 millions. So another medical wonder drug will come and save another 200 million.
Not only penicillin, I heard, probably that's only a rumor, right? They say lots of life-saving medications are available now. For example, they say cancer. Cancer treatment antibiotics, and also diabetic fighting medication whatsoever. They say it is available now. They both are available now.
But
the fact is that, and there is always a purpose to keep the balance of proportionally marketing it to versus your death rate and the birth rate. You see what I mean?
yes,
Yeah. If everybody can be saved from not dying for diabetic, or not dying for heart disease, or not dying for whatever.
Overpopulation of the world will continue.
Overpopulation going to be the problem.
Yes, it is already a problem. A huge problem.
For that, they have to put restrictions on the medication release, as how, when to release it, how to release it. Do you think that could be
It's a very interesting. Oh yes, I would believe that the powers that be are considering this and maybe also doing this, because it's actually logical, because the overpopulation, as you mentioned a figure some time ago, about 7.5 or something billion people, is as much as the earth is expected to be able to feed, to house, and we are getting very close to this, or we have reached it already.
Yes. After all, you're talking about the environment that with the given sunlight, right, as your source of energy, this piece of land has a limited amount of whatever can be yelled out as product, as product or as production or as anything, one way or the other. There is no way to increase it, but there are lots of ways to decrease it.
Yeah, constantly decreasing it.
Right?
Yeah.
So medication is the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And the human life is the same thing. Right. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we're trying to outsmart not nature all the time. We're trying to develop something which kills something, but then nature in itself changes course and becomes resistant. You find something else. No, it makes absolutely sense because overpopulation is a very, very serious problem, and especially overpopulation of the aged people, because aged people in principle have become useless to the productivity, because they're sitting there in old age homes, basically waiting to disappear.
According to Ivan's study,
Yeah.
that the green annual yield, right, can support 9.4 billion people, maximum, no more.
Whose study is that?
Ivan Chang.
Oh, your friend Ivan.
My friend Ivan Chang.
Very
right?
good, yes.
Yeah. And the total green yield would support maximum of 9.4 billion people. And yet, by the year of 2050, and the total population is going to go over 10 billion.
Wow.
10 billion. So you're talking about extra 5 million, no, 600 million.
Yeah.
600 million people already an extra. They are the portion out of food supply.
Right.
However, there is a different lifestyle you're talking about. Different lifestyle about that. People may directly eat green. That's one way, right? People may use their grain to feed the cows, to feed their pigs, feed the chicken, and then eat them, right? Eat them. So going around that one way, that consumes extra grain. And according to the Ivan study, the whole world green yield could support if everybody go the Indian way. They eat rice.
Yes.
They use their fingers, right? They eat vegetables. In other words, they eat much less of beef, pork, chicken, and stuff like that. So it will support 10 billion Indians. However, the same amount of food would only support 2.5 billion Americans.
Oh.
We consume 4 times of grain than Indians do. That's the number. Interesting.
Very interesting. So he does this kind of studies?
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting.
Okay, my dear friends, let's take a moment out. We come back, we put together everything, and to see, we want to shape ourselves, your lifestyles, in consideration of the bacteria, infection, or antibiotics less being effective, and talking about everybody wants to live longer, and yet you have only limited resources. What do you want to do? So, we'll be right back. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show, you dear fellow citizens of this global Earth. Welcome back to the ICTTV show. Host Jack Chow. With me, my lovely guest, Chris Nibby. we both want to bring some subjects every now and then that we believe necessary for you to be equipped with. Well, we are a world of a bunch of people with the day-to-day busy activities, all for money. We really, really need to slow down to think about ourselves, think about the fact, think about our environment. Our environment, on one hand, you have less and less effective antibiotics, and you have, on the other hand, you have contaminated water resources. You have contaminated, polluted environment. You have limited food supplies. Right? Altogether, I would call them a wake-up call for people to think and think twice what we are doing, what we're keeping as a lifestyle, if that is workable, extendable, right?
That's right. And, a certain awareness of these things already is a step forward. Because if you are aware of things, that makes you understand many things better and makes you act different, and it raises your conscious level. See, like over time, bacteria developed resistance, that's what we talked about, to antibiotics through genetic mutation. The bacteria mutated itself, like we are mutating also, that alter area or processes targeted by the specific medication. So the medication becomes useless because the opponent, namely the bacteria, is stronger than the medication which you're trying to kill the bacteria.
Someday, somehow, it's going to be totally denied. For example, the tetracycline that I mentioned a while ago was totally abundant by human beings.
Oh, they don't use it anymore.
No country is using tetracycline anymore, right? However, penicillin, which is the source of nowadays amoxicillin and what is that? There are other, the whole series.
Derivatives.
Yeah, relative series. They're still working. However, that are limited too.
Yes.
Because you have a limited environment as the prerequisite.
Correct.
So there is always a limitation what you can do.
Correct.
Right. So would that put that into the thinking though? We always want to, like I just now said, want to make it a wake-up call to see not only you want to live a busy life, but you want to live a healthy life. For healthy life, I'm not even only saying bodily healthy. I would also want to promote something mentally healthy. Yes. Mentally healthy.
Goes hand in hand.
Right? Let's go hand in hand. Let's all pay attention to our environment. Oh, by speaking of Ivan Chang, in Ivan Chang's writing, there is a story. Well, of course, it's a fake story. It's a fake story. However,
based on reality.
Yeah, based on reality is a fake story. Okay, say there is a tribe. The tribe, for generation after generation, they live on that piece of grassland. They do ships, right? Ship eat the grass, and they eat from the ships. It goes on and on and on and on. Because of a good climate, good everything, the ships are getting more and more and more and more. The herds, the size of the herds gets more and more, so they have to move, and then move, and then move. That makes the whole thing of the tribal kind of people of called therapeutic. They have no fixed home. They move around all the time. Now, they move and move and move and move until someday there is nowhere to move. Look around them. There is no grass left. when this group moves, the other group moves too, right?
Yeah.
And the other group moves too. When all groups move, they consumed all the grass. There is no grass left. And the land with no grass left, though, the land goes himself in the rain whatsoever.
Deteriorates, yeah.
Yeah, so that gives the end of the whole tribal people. So that story supposed to tell something.
Yeah, at the end they all stand at an abyss and look down and nowhere to go. And that makes a lot of sense. You know, that happened in Tibet.
All right.
Where before, in the old days, the herds were all limited, not because the people were poor and they couldn't afford it to have a big herd. It was just not. Now, as over the last 40 years has gone on, the herds have expanded and there is a problem of overgrazing. So the government of China has put large parts of the Tibetan plateau off limits for several years in order that the soil is rejuvenating, the grass is regrowing, and then they allow this part, the herders, to go there, while the previous part where the herders were is being closed off for grazing. So that addresses this story.
Yeah, and before long, there was nowhere to move them around.
Correct, but you see, they're doing it in a system so that it will be okay because...
Yeah.
But you're right. If they increase the herds, then in the end it could come to exactly that story, that fictionalized story of Ivan, which makes a lot of sense. And
yeah, that does make sense. Yes.
A lot of sense, yeah. So, you see, the World Health Organization reports that there is a new, they call it pigment, called, and I have...
The color?
No, they call it pigment. It's called staphyloxanthin. Staphyloxanthin. It helps to fight antibiotic resistance, and its discovery represents an important step forward in the antibiotic research.
You mean the staphyloxanthin will work?
That's what they say. The World Health Organization's reports. That is the latest report of the World Health Organization that scientists have discovered it. However, this pigment is so extremely difficult to manufacture, and scientists are trying very hard to develop alternatives which are easier to produce. See, the problem is always you have to test. You have to find out. It's a long, long way. That's why sometimes, it's unfair to accuse Big Pharma of price gouging or something, because the development of a particular medicine is very, very difficult.
The way I look at this whole problem is such. It is so complicated that we cannot singly criticize them,
Correct.
the Big Pharma, for making too much money as profit. And on the other hand, they do make lots of money.
Yes.
They do make extra amount of even unreasonable money.
Yes.
And on the third front, though, even if the government wants to do something, well, they have to consider, they are too big. They're too big. You can't touch them.
Correct.
Right. There's any rebounds, you're gone. The whole country is gone.
Right.
Right. So that we hope only Ivan can help. Ivan calls for rational revolution.
Yes, as I said.
To change the thinking.
As I'm calling for a renaissance of true
humanity. You did two shows ago. Yes.
The renaissance of true humanity. But I mean, it's a lot asked, because people, between trying to make a living and trying to raise a family and trying to meet the challenges of this century.
Of everything.
It's very difficult. We have the luxury that we are dealing with things, we are writing, we are making films. It's a different work. It propels us in that direction where we look at projects and find interesting ideas, and we're trying to do it. But the average people, they have a 9-to-5 job. And it takes in California many people 2 hours to get to the job and 2 hours to go home.
We're lucky the way we work for our food.
We are very lucky.
We're very lucky because we ride, somebody buys, and then we go for the food.
Right.
Suppose if you're working exactly this very moment for a loaf of bread, though.
Right.
Life is hard. Life is hard on you. And you can't afford to be sick. That's why antibiotics have to be available.
Right.
And has to be
effective. Yeah, effective, right? And a quick fix.
And for that, you have to go with the big pharma.
Right.
That they create the medication.
Right.
And that you want them make less money because you want to share a little bit.
Correct.
You want a share of the pie. Right? So
it's a perfect example. For example, you see, we are, or in my case, I'm self-employed. So I can have schedule my time. So I can have in the morning the luxury to press my own orange juice. Taking fresh orange juice, lemon, and...
You still do that?
Yes. And a grapefruit and press it. Or on another day, take turmeric, which is very good, ginger, red beets, celery, apple, and lemon.
You don't lay your eggs.
No.
You don't lay your own eggs.
Not yet. That's the next thing.
Okay, we're over time, man.
Oh, we're over time.
We're over time. All right, go home, lay your eggs. My dear friend, my lovely audiences, I like this conversation. I like my brother, Chris Neby, and except that he doesn't lay his own eggs. Anyway, he does everything himself, right? Except the laying eggs. Okay. All right, see you next time. Bye.